people are doing. Man, I've been waiting for so long to do this video comparison. I know it's been a while and all that jazz, but look, I've been prepping for the review as well. That's coming soon enough, by the way, dropping real soon, and well, it's gonna be fun, to say the very least. But the fact is this, look, the Xiaomi 1400, it's just damn. It has so damn much to offer. It is insane. It is ridiculous. It's balls to the walls crazy. I am running out of words. Look, it's simple. We have way more options than anything even something like the X100 Pro can fathom. It's almost like, you know how the X100 Pro has about 10 million different options when it comes to photography? The Xiaomi has a lot of that happening with videos. Well, close enough. But it is one of the most versatile cameras that I've used in a very, very long time. And you'll see exactly why soon enough. But, you know what really bothers me about the Xiaomi 14 Ultra? It's very simple. It does not have selfie portrait video. It's not like I care about it or anything, but just thinking about it. Just thinking about a smartphone camera that has so many features that it could basically give you anything your heart desires, including making your damn sandwich. But somehow, for the love of all that is holy, it doesn't have selfie portrait video. I mean, that's just weird. But look, the fact is this, we do get portrait video on both of these phones, which is a relief, and it is better than nothing at all. And look, in case the cameras are shaking, it's because the tripod that I have is it's a little weak in the legs, let's just say. Regardless, as far as I can remember, I think that with the video comparisons I've done previously with the X100 Pro, it has better selfie portrait video with the edge detection and all that jazz, as opposed to the rear camera portrait video. Now, I don't remember if that is really exactly the case or not, but I think that was how it went. We can find out in this one at the very least. Alright, that was a long ass intro, and there's so much left to cover. Man, this thing can do a lot of things. Anyways, the selfie video, there are two sides to selfie videos with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra in particular. So there's the audio quality, which is, I think, it's one of the absolute best mics that I've ever heard, or rather the audio from the mic that I've ever heard. You get the point. It's just the amount of noise that it is reducing without really muffling my voice almost at all. It's a little crazy, isn't it? Like, you guys heard the same thing that I did. The X100 Pro, it sounds clear, sure, but it also sounds very noisy. Like the wind noise from the ACs, it's really up there. The Xiaomi, it almost sounds like there's no background noise at all. It's pretty insane, to say the very least. And you know, Xiaomi hyped up the microphones in their previews and stuff like that, but I didn't think it was gonna be this good. But the quality of the video, man, the amount of artifacting, the noise, the grain, the lack of detail, even though it's 4K on both, it's very staggeringly high on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, and yeah, that's very disappointing, to say the least. Like, I expected similar quality between these two, especially with just how much the Xiaomi is focusing on having a bunch of features and stuff like that. I had expected it to be a little bit better, to be honest. It is disappointing, to say the very least, and even with selfie portrait video, a feature that the Xiaomi doesn't have, by the way, and also the fact that it's not just portrait video, it's also 1080p from the X100 Pro. It's somehow just better looking than the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. In contrast, in HDR, everything, it just looks better on the X100. But then we switch to the rear cameras, and here actually I think the Xiaomi is doing a slightly better job. Both the edge detection, the colors, the detail levels, it all seems to be just a pinch higher in all of those cases, and overall, of course, that really allows it to pull ahead as opposed to the X100 Pro, which, as I mentioned in the video itself, the X100's selfie portrait video quality along with the edge detection is actually better than the rear portrait video quality that we get from the X100 Pro itself. It's weird as all hell combined, but it is the case. But now, finally, let us get into the meat of the matter over here, which is 4K 30 with the rear cameras. There's a lot going on with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, not in this particular sample, but furthermore. We'll get to that. So with the Xiaomi, with 4K 30 specifically, you get HDR video, and that basically improves the dynamic range a little bit, allows for the contrast to be adjusted a little bit better as opposed to anything else. But I think it's basically the same across the board. But notice the details. Notice the leaves and also the pavement in particular. That thing looks crazy. The amount of detail that is being brought out is insane. and this is not sharpening by the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. Sounds crazy. Looks like this is just the result of really good balanced sharpening. It's not. I'll show you samples for details soon enough. It's not sharpening, I'm telling you right now. The way the contrast and the mid-tone detail, the mid-tone clarity is handled on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, it allows for this level of detail to be brought out. And that is just so impressive. The fact that it beats out the X100 Pro, which already produces a lot of detail, it is beyond impressive to say the very least. But the Xiaomi goes so much further with this. Like, we had something called Master Cinema. It is essentially, I believe, a Rec 2020 color space, and it gives you a very flat color profile, and it's not log mode. We'll get to log. Log is significantly flatter than what Master Cinema does. You could consider Master Cinema to be a middle ground between log video and regular Rec 709 4K 30 video that we saw just previously. The benefit should be beyond obvious. You can color grade it with such ease. The reason Master Cinema is so good is simple. It allows anyone to just start at a beginner level with color grading. With log video, it can be a little challenging. I mean, for me, for someone who color grades on a fairly regular basis, it took me like 10 to 15 minutes to grade this. And it doesn't take that short a time for any other regular log video. Even the video that you're looking at right now, the A-roll that is, it took a little bit longer than that to color grade. But of course, the log video, you see, it just doesn't stop on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, but there are issues. I do want to preface it with that. We get 10-bit 4K 30 log video, and that is insanely good, absolutely stunning stuff. But you can probably tell the problem, right? The stabilization. See, the stabilization between the Xiaomi 14 Ultra and the X100 Pro, it's very similar with regular 4K 30 video and even Master Cinema 4K 30 video. But as it would turn out, the log video, which is essentially accessed via director mode in the camera app, it's a little complicated, I'll give you that. But still, it just doesn't have the same stabilization quality as regular 4K 30 video, which makes no sense whatsoever. And what that means is, even though you get insanely high quality log video, a 10-bit log video on top of everything else, it is undeniably a pleasure to grade, but then the moment you hit play, you realize that it is just shaking and jerking all over the place. Wait, that sounded horrible. But only if your mind is in the gutter. Is it? I swear, that was not planned. But what is on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra is 4K 60. 4K 60, I know for a fact, is not something that even the iPhone can do with ProRes log. And yes, I understand ProRes log quality is on another level. It also eats up storage like it's nobody's business. But regardless, 4K 60 log video is an interesting addition. But the problem with stabilization remains, which means that even after you've done a really nice color grade, and this is pushed beyond a lot of limits, like it is pushed beyond something that even I wouldn't go for, and usually I go for very pushed color grades, as you might have noticed at this point if you've been watching. But well, the fact is this, those jerks are just ridiculous. That should not happen, especially because regular 4K 30 doesn't have any jerks happening. Why in the name of God do we have such an issue with log video? Like, I really want to use log video on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, but I cannot. Anyways, man, up until now we've been basically showcasing what the Xiaomi 14 Ultra can do, not even comparing anything. So let's get back to that, shall we? So with the ultra wide 4K 30, look, I'm not really sure if the X100 is particularly screwing up or if the Xiaomi is just that much better, because it looks definitively better on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra as opposed to the X100 Pro. The colors, the weird warmth on the road that is happening, I don't really know why. The textures on the road, the textures in the leaves, insane level of haloing that we're getting on the X100 Pro, especially the leaves that are against the sky. Like, it looks crazy. And even exposure and contrast, that is something the X100 has always done really well. Xiaomi is just doing a better job, plain and simple. And I'll be completely honest, I did not expect the Xiaomi 14 Ultra to perform this well in regular videos. I expected it to be like an absolute star with log video and all that, but there it doesn't have stabilization. With regular stuff, it's doing phenomenally well. Also, notice just how bloody wide the Xiaomi's camera is, the ultra wide that is. Now let us try out the focusing with the main camera, and it works well. I think it's a little oversaturated in this particular case, at least. You know, it looks a little too much vibrance for my particular taste, but regardless, I think the focusing itself is working more than well enough. It looks great, and it's super fast, has no inaccuracies, it racks really nice. But well, you see, with the X100 Pro, you might notice that I am focusing or trying to focus on leaves and not on the flowers. There's a very good reason behind that, because for some reason, the X100 Pro, despite having some of the best, fastest focusing that I've ever seen, it doesn't like to focus on red flowers. Particularly these red flowers. I think I have something going on, I don't know. It's been something that has bothered me, and it's been an issue. Like, as you can see right here, it's not focusing on that damn flower. It wouldn't do it. I don't know why. It's like a bug or something else that doesn't allow the X100 to focus on red flowers. Now for versatility. Look, it should be pretty obvious that the Xiaomi is gonna take a win here. It does have an extra sensor right there, so we are zooming in from the ultra-wide camera to the main camera, and then the 2x. See, the fact with the 2x is this: it should not be used with videos. I don't know why phone companies give us the toggle for 2x. It makes no sense, because the 2x sensor crop doesn't really work with video. I'm not really sure why, but it doesn't work. Because the moment we zoom into an optical zoom level like the 3x or even the 5x on the Xiaomi, it looks great. It looks exactly like the way it should. The details do not look weird and over sharpened and processed, and it looks organic, significantly more so than anything that the 2x on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra can provide. Now for the X100 Pro, even without comparing side by side, I can tell you right now, the ultra-wide camera's detail levels, it was significantly higher on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. It's not even a comparison. I don't really know how the X100 Pro is just falling behind so much with this. Anyways, also notice just how much wider the Xiaomi's ultra-wide was as opposed to the X100 Pro. It's not a bad field of view that we have on the X100, but the Xiaomi just takes it to another level, whilst giving us almost better quality with videos at least. That's quite something. Anyways, the 2x on the X100 Pro, to be completely fair, I think it looks better as opposed to what we had with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, specifically the 2x. But let's be honest, even though it does look a little bit better, I still don't think it's worth using. At the end of the day, you're gonna get significantly worse quality as opposed to any optical zoom level, at least in videos. In photos, it's a whole different story. And then of course the 4.3x, which is basically as good as the 5x that we get on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. No complaints here. Now then, let us jump on over to 4K 60. You see, 4K 60, it kind of follows a similar pattern, so to speak. The X100 Pro, it looks good, but the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, the way it handles the contrast and the exposure, it is so expertly done. Without any sharpening at all, it is able to produce and lift up the details. And just look at the pavement and the roads and some of the leaves. It looks so much more detailed, so much more organically detailed as opposed to the X100 Pro. That's really the best way for me to describe it. I'm pretty sure you guys can see it even on YouTube after compression and all that jazz. It should be very obvious here. Now there is one thing you should keep in mind with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. We were using HDR, just better dynamic range through and through, when using 4K 30. But with 4K 60, that option is not available. This is not Dolby Vision, by the way, we'll get to that. But what I can tell you is this much: with 4K 60, especially with the ultra-wide camera, the main camera doesn't suffer as much with dynamic range, but the ultra-wide camera definitely does. You can tell immediately the X100 Pro has way more shadow detail, and just it looks really crushed on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. Definitely not something that you would want, especially as an inconsistency between 4K 30 and 4K 60. And now for 8K. Look, the Xiaomi has a whole lot going on with 8K, but with the main cameras, I mean, just look at the exposure and look at the way it handles the balance and contrast. However, there is a major problem. I mean, you can tell. Stabilization. Stabilization really seems to be plaguing the Xiaomi here, because the lack of stabilization in 8K, ooh, that's a big one. That's a pretty massive problem in my books. Very unfortunate, I absolutely agree. But you see, with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, you get a lot of options with 8K. It, I guess, in some way, shape or form, kinda makes up for it with the ultra-wide 8K in particular. I think that's the most usable version of the 8Ks that we get. And what really bothers me is that the Xiaomi somehow has almost impeccable stabilization. especially with 8K ultrawides, this is quite good. I can easily walk around with this. It looks beautiful, detailed. Why is the main camera lacking stabilization so much? Isn't the main camera one that should be optimized more than any other? That's the one most people will use anyways. But apparently we can't because the 8K video doesn't have stabilization on the Xiaomi. Anyways, moving on, we also get 8K with the 3X. And look, it's a bit situational, but to be honest, think about this. If we just got main and ultra-wide 8K, and not with the 3X and 5X, but the main camera 8K had good stabilization, would that not be better than the package we're getting right now? I mean, this would not even be considered a compromise in most people's cases, including myself, because I'm not going to use 3X and 5X 8K video almost anywhere. I never use zoom anyways because you get almost no stabilization. But yeah, very unfortunate that the main camera doesn't work. That's the most important one, as I said. Now then, for super stable video using the main cameras, I'll tell you this much. The X100 Pro definitely seems to be struggling just a little bit with the exposure. It seems to be fluctuating around a little, not quite as stable and perfect as we had with the 4K and stuff like that. But it's not nearly as bad as what we are getting with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, because damn, that is just, it's dark as all hell combined. That is horrible. It's weird. I really don't have any explanation for it. I don't understand why it happened. And while I was taking the shot, it was so hot and the sun was so bright, I couldn't even tell that the Xiaomi was underexposing so much. And again, the weird thing is that the Xiaomi's ultra-wide super stable video, it doesn't have that exposure issue. I don't know if this was a one-off problem or not. Maybe the next video comparison I make, that will shed some light on whether or not the exposure issue with the super stable is really something that we should be worried about, or maybe it just happened this one time. But what I can tell you is this much: the stabilization that we are getting and the sheer loss in quality on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra's ultra-wide super stable, it doesn't really make it all that worth using, to be entirely honest. Now, Dolby Vision HDR sounds really good, doesn't it? Does it look that good? The Xiaomi 14 Ultra. See, the fact is this: the X100 Pro doesn't give us any such options, so it's a moot point. But the Xiaomi, its exposure is so off the track. Like, it will brighten suddenly and then darken everything. Just, it's all over the place and fluctuates like crazy. It really doesn't look that good. It does not look nearly as professional as you would expect HDR video to look like. And that is very unfortunate, to say the very least. And now finally, for the details, since we're starting with 4K, and there's a lot of things to test, so let's get to it. Now, this right here is a 500% crop, and look, what did I tell you? The Xiaomi 14 Ultra just gives you a whole bunch of detail. It doesn't sharpen all that much. The X100 sharpens more, but still the Xiaomi 14 Ultra manages to produce at least as much, if not more detail, at least in some areas. And look, with just how bad the log video stabilization was, I really wanted to know for a fact that Master Cinema mode can be used without any issues. The stabilization is already good, but what about details? Thankfully, there's no real sacrifice. The reason it might appear to be very less detailed is because there's no contrast. That's why you're perceiving way less detail. But trust me, on a bigger screen, where I can perceive the details, it is just as detailed as a regular 4K video, which is absolutely perfect, exactly what you want. And now for the ultra-wide camera. Look, the ultra-wide on the Xiaomi is so much wider than the X100 that it can be a pain in the ass to just frame it properly. Even though I tried, it just looks like the painting is so much farther away. But regardless, we will carry on and zoom in on that finger. The approach is very different in both. There's a whole bunch of noise on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, and there's a whole bunch of noise reduction and sharpening artifacts happening on the X100 Pro. Now, I don't know which one you might prefer, but it doesn't look all that pretty on either. I would say that as opposed to the artifacting, I might as well take the noisy video. Now then, for 8K video, I must say the colors look a little too saturated on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. I've complained about this previously as well. Sometimes, it doesn't happen all the time, but sometimes it just oversaturates a bit too much. I mean, we all know that the OnePlus 12 doesn't look that green. And when we crop into 500%, there's some amount of sharpening and artifacting happening on both phones. I mean, it's gonna happen regardless. But I do think it's a little bit more on the Xiaomi, which is a little odd to say the least, but let's be fair. Without the stabilization, you can only realistically use the X100 Pro. But thankfully, that is not the case with the ultra-wide camera, because ultra-wide 8K can be used even when you're moving around, it's not a problem at all. But are the details good enough to even bother with 8K? Well, the short answer is it is kind of worthwhile because we do get some amount of noise and artifacting on both. Less artifacting on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra particularly, but the detail levels, it's very close, but I do think the Xiaomi is pulling ahead with the details. It does seem to have, like, the texture in the wall seems more organically detailed as opposed to the more sharpened details that we are getting on the X100 Pro. That's kind of the difference I'm seeing. Oh, and try and ignore the painting because it's a work in progress. Right now it looks like trash, but man, I've got big plans. Now then, the 3X with 8K. I usually don't even bother with 3X or 5X or any of those. But look, with 3X, the Xiaomi is gonna pull ahead, like it or not. It is optical zoom after all. 8K, 4K, whatever the hell you use, you're gonna get better results. And now for 5X, I tried to frame it so that the 4.3X can be compensated for, because I want it to be a fair comparison at the very least, right? Because we are comparing 8K against 4K here. And when we crop in, I do think that the Xiaomi does have more detail, but it's not a night and day difference. Like, you would expect significantly more detail, like maybe like 4 times more detail when you're using 8K against 4K, but that's not really the case. Alright, we can almost see the finish line now. So this is nighttime video or night mode video that we get on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. The X100 doesn't really have anything as such, but what I can tell you is this much: it is better on the X100 Pro, simply because of the stabilization. I mean, the amount of jerks that are making it into the Xiaomi 14 Ultra, it almost makes it basically unusable. And here, let us finally move on to slow motion. There are other options with the Xiaomi 14 Ultra as well, we'll get to it. But the 1080p 240, I do think that the detail level is higher on the X100 Pro. It's not a surprise. 1080p video from the X100 Pro, whether it is the selfie portrait video, the slow-mo, or even super stable, but super stable had other issues on the Xiaomi, so we didn't really compare details. But I can tell you this much: 1080p video, regardless of what it is you're shooting, the X100 Pro more than likely will produce insane levels of details that you couldn't even fathom would be possible from a smartphone camera. I say that from some vehemently astonishing personal experience. But the one thing that just makes the Xiaomi 14 Ultra stand out by a fair bit is, of course, 4K 120. This is the second phone I've used this year that has 4K 120, and it is glorious, as you would expect. It just, I really like 4K 120, as you can tell. It's just slow enough to be considered to be fairly good slow motion, and the 4K just elevates it to a whole new level, and it looks so damn good that there's no two ways about it. So with all of that said, this finally brings us to the end of this comparison. It's probably going to be one of my longest video comparisons because of just how many things we had to compare. Regardless, I think the Xiaomi kind of defied a lot of my expectations in both good and bad ways, because essentially, with regular 4K, I expected the X100 to do significantly better, but it was the Xiaomi that pulled ahead, more or less the entirety of the time. Especially with the main camera and the ultra-wide camera, with 4K 30, it was significantly better, at least for my taste. The way the videos looked, just worthy of a chef's kiss. But what disappoints me is the lack of stabilization, specifically with log video, 8K video, 8K main camera video, and wait, what was the last one? The night mode video, that is. It's just, man, so unfortunate that it provides us with so many options, but the most important ones to me personally, like log video, don't have stabilization. At least the Master Cinema mode, which does give us a very flat profile, very log-esque profile, it does work. It does produce really good, stable, and very color grade friendly footage, so it kind of makes up for it. But it is very unfortunate that the log video needs to be used with either a tripod or maybe a gimbal, and that's very unfortunate. Not exactly professional, now is it? It is what the Xiaomi 14 Ultra is rooting for, at the very least. But well, with all that said, I think this gives us some very good insights with regards to just how the videography works on the Xiaomi 14 Ultra. I'm not really sure which one would be best to buy right now, because the 4K on the Xiaomi is something else. The X100 Pro is more well-rounded, but I don't know, let me know your thoughts. Well, regardless of that, I'll be seeing you guys soon enough with many more to come. Cheers.